Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Thinking Aloud. The Calvinist Contradiction. I get those two mixed up because they sound kind of like the Calvinist Contradiction. We're here today in Genesis 23, continuing our study on whether or not Calvinism is found in the opening chapters of the Bible, and really in the Bible as a whole. And we do this because we believe that if it is truly biblical doctrine and the right theology to interpret the whole of the scriptures by, it would surely be set up in Genesis 3, where you would find total inability, the Calvinistic rendering of total depravity, which every Christian believes in, totally depraved. We need to be saved. We need a savior to be right with God. They say you're totally unable to even understand, believe, or come to the realization that you need that. And so that's what we're talking about, the Calvinistic rendering of total depravity. And if that is the case, then surely we would find it in sorry, I didn't know if you can hear that from the mic. Surely you would be able to see that in Genesis 3. Now, we went over Genesis 3, and it's not in Genesis 3. And guess what? It's not in Genesis 4. And so Adam's sons, Cain and Abel, are not able to come to the Lord. The Lord is in relationship with them, and we've gone over that a lot. And so you can go back to that chapter, and we've just asked that same question all the way through the biblical narrative up to Genesis 23, which we'll be looking at today. Wanted to say thank you so much for your comments in the comment section. I would ask some of you Calvinist dudes or Calvinist brothers and sisters out there, if you're going to respond and if you're going to make statements saying something like, I never use scripture in my videos, it's not true. Literally, you are showing yourself to be false, like you're systematic. And I don't want to see that. I want to see you guys who probably hold to pretty heady theological viewpoints not just be written off as maligning somebody. And I try not to do that myself. I quote Calvinists, I quote their renderings as they put forth. And so just try not to do that. Or I'm asking, even though you're probably thinking, well, I was, destined before the foundation of the world to do so, to do that, because it just shows you as false, probably negative, and all those other things. Because I have 23 videos where I use nothing but scriptures to put forth, and important scriptures, which I never hear again Calvinists going through and rendering it from the text that Calvinism is clearly and plainly taught. Another thing I wanted to say was, could you help us share the love of God with the world? To do so, please like these videos. We have been growing. People have been subscribing. We have just like these videos, subscribe to the channel and share them as you will. And please pray about supporting us financially. So we are crowd-funded ministry over here in Asia Minor, where I am a church planner with my family. We've planted 2 churches over here, and so pretty busy guy. Have some ministries going on. I have a funeral ministry that I do for expats in our country, and then I am running a church and discipling program in the country that we are hosted in. And so there are links in the description if you pray about and feel led to give to this ministry. We would greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, you can click on the link in the description. That'll take you to the scriptures that we're looking at today. That is Genesis 23. And I really like this. May seem boring, okay? But this is the kind of scriptures that we're talking about. I think, in my own opinion, that Genesis 18, 19, the whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing, the 20 offering of Isaac, just cripple the systematic of Calvinism at its knees. And I think that's why Calvinists don't ever go to these passages, is because it comes in and it just asks the question, what the heck is the point of any of this? And in all respects, 23 does that. What is the point of this semi-boring chapter where we have Abraham going back and forth with the Hittites here to persuade them to what? Sell him a grave. And so let's get into here. And my question is, what the heck is the point of that in a deterministic worldview? If that's how we are supposed to render the scriptures, with a deterministic worldview, that God is actually already before aeons past, set up whether or not he is going to get this and Abraham is believing that and is acting like that in the time, because this is the right way to interpret the scriptures, right? So how would Abraham not be thinking like that? Okay, that's what we're saying is, do the biblical characters act in a deterministic worldview, as if a deterministic worldview is the true gospel? Remember, Calvinism is the gospel, and we have brothers, Calvinistic brothers and sisters, saying that in the comment section. You can go back and read, the true gospel. Well, when they say that, that's Calvinism, or that Christianity is the true, or Calvinism is the true Christianity. And so, if that's the case, why isn't Abraham, or is Abraham acting that way? That's the question. Let's answer it. Scriptures. This is 23:1. Now Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in this Kinnereth Rabbah, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner among you. Give me the burial site among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our graves. None of us will refuse you his grave for burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed down to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. Let me break in here real quick. What's the point of this? Why is he bowing down? What does it matter? The deterministic worldview, Abraham here, God's already going to give this to me, or God has willed that I'm going to have this. So, what would be the point of bowing down? A gesture to get them to do something. That's what's going on here. He is the prince, and he's going and he's bowing down. He doesn't need to do this. He is trying to do something here. So I'll answer that question here in a minute. But what would be the point of this in a deterministic worldview? And if Abraham is living by the constructs of a deterministic worldview. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your wish for me to bury my dead out of my sight, hear me. And approach Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, which is at the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me in your presence for a burial site. Again, in your presence. What does it matter in the presence of anybody? Um, you know, uh, if it is your wish for me to bury my dead out of my sight, they do not need to write this. Okay, we talk about this a lot, interpreting the scriptures in the correct context. The context is ancient Near East. The ancient Near East has a worldview of its own, and we need to understand that worldview, right? And so that's why bowing down is important. Why? Because he is trying to negotiate with these people. He wants to pay them. He doesn't want them to give it to him so that they can come back on him later. He wants to pay him. So what is he doing? He is using gestures like bowing down. He is kind of closing the deal here, we would use in a modern vernacular. So he's closing the deal. He is, appeasing them. And deterministic Abraham here, Calvinistic Abraham, if it is the true rendering, what is this? If it is your wish for me to bury my dead, that's very specific. He could write, if it is God's wish for me, he will have me bury my dead in your field before the foundation of the world. He already knows this is going to happen. There's no need to bow down. There's no need to mention wish here. These are specific things that are happening within the context of the ancient Near Eastern narrative that are un-Calvinistic and unbiblically, if you're looking at it through a Calvinistic deterministic worldview. I hope you can follow me here, because I keep on saying they are picking specific words. Picking specific words to communicate thoughts to a Near Eastern audience, right? That's their audience. They're not using words to communicate to us 5,000 years later. because the Bible is written for everybody. So we can read this and we can say Calvinism is baloney sausage because of what is written here, but they are writing to. So the Bible was written for everybody, but not to everybody. They're writing to a specific people group, and that people group is the ancient Near East, who is not looking at this text deterministically. And we know for a fact Abraham isn't, because he could for sure say exactly what a Calvinist would render this as, is that God has wished, from aeon before the foundation of the world, that Sarah's going to be buried in this cave. And so there is no bowing down that needs to be involved. And there is no wishing that the people need to make, or there's no wishing that Abraham needs to make, for that matter of fact. This is all charades. This is all just a bunch of garbage. If you interpret it through the Calvinistic worldview, which I would say don't, because it's baloney sausage once again. Now, Ephron was sitting among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth. Why would that be important? Doesn't matter at all outside of an ancient Near Eastern context where everybody needs to hear, and they're all giving witness to what's going on in the town, in the city gates. What's the point of that if it's just determined before the foundation of the world? It cannot be. His meticulous control will not be changed, because for his glory it needs to go that way. If this is a true rendering, what is any of this? What's the purpose of any of this? Even of all who went in at the gate of the city sang. What is the point of that knowledge right there? Should just say God determined it before the foundation of the world. Over. This is a specific thing that is related to the culture on how they negotiated. No, my Lord, hear me. I give you the field and give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Okay? Ancient Near Eastern context. Everybody hears a witness. You go ahead and bury your dead. And Abraham bowed before the people of the land. Why is he doing it? Why is he trying to persuade? That's the answer that we said a little bit earlier. What's he trying to do here? He is trying to persuade. He's trying to persuade the people to have them agree that he can pay for this, not be given to it for free. He wants to pay for this cave. So he is appeasing them, right? He's appeasing these people. I'm going to bow down. I'm going to show respect. I'm going to prostrate myself before you so that you can feel that I am sincere, right? That he is relying on them, that their wish would be for him to buy the cave. That is what it says, plain and clear in the text. Not that God has already determined before the foundations of the world that these people would wish, would be made to wish, are literally being made to because God is doing it. Just like we said, Calvinistic worldview, God does not allow. He's not allowing these people to wish. He doesn't allow for people to get raped. He rapes people. He kills people. He does the unimaginable, at least in John Piper's worldview, John Calvin's worldview, John MacArthur's worldview, R.C. Sproul's worldview. He does these things, not allows them, and he does them for his own glory. And we don't see that in the text right here. Why? Because it's evil, it's wicked, and it's baloney sausage. So he bows down, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land. Again, this is important. Everybody's hearing this, saying, if you will, only please listen to me. Okay, will you listen to me? God's will is for you to listen to me. So hear this. No, will you listen to me? If you will only please listen to me, I will give you the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, my Lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? So bury your dead. Now, this is very Middle Eastern. I live in the Middle East. This is how they do this. This is how they negotiate. This is honor, shame. Okay, that's what's going on here. That is the true context of what is going on here. Honor, you bow down. And shame, you don't just tell the price of the field, you negotiate it. You get them to say the price, and then you do that. It's not cut and dry. It's not American, Western, transactional relationship. This is Middle Eastern. And how do I know? Because I've lived here for 10 years. I've done this literally for 10 years. So, Calvinist, what's the answer here? Why is this here? See, living in the Middle East in a deterministic world, these people are deterministic. Calvinism and Islam are really strange bedmates in a lot of ways. I've done a video on that. But right here, it is a negotiation happening. That's what's going on here. Honor and shame is the context, not Calvinism. Ancient Near Eastern mindset, worldview is the proper interpretation, not Calvinism, not John Calvin, not John Piper, not John Shamalama Ding Dong, whoever, Mr. Calvinist, R.C. Sproul, Spurgeon, any of these guys. Nobody should give a hoot about if they're not teaching the proper context of the Bible in Genesis here, where we are, which is the ancient Near East. That's why I say you can ignore these people and write them off pretty quickly if they're not going into Genesis. So you Calvinists out there who respond to me all the time, you're not going to Genesis 3 and 4 and showing us where Calvinism is plainly, clearly taught for us to interpret this thing right here in a deterministic, meticulous worldview that turns God into a raping, killing monster for his own glory, a glory hog. He's the most proud. He's the, above all else. He is the anti-Christ, hurting people for his own glory, not laying down his life so that other people can live. That's what's going on here. That's why I hate the Calvinist systematic. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate you, Calvinists. I love you guys. But the Calvinistic systematic is evil. It is wrong, it is harmful, and it is not the way these texts are supposed to be interpreted. Prove me wrong. Get on here and prove me wrong out of the text. And I want to see from Genesis 4. I want to see from Genesis 3. Prove us wrong. So, we have an ancient Near Eastern negotiation within the context of honor and shame going on here. Nothing Calvinistic about this at all. Nothing deterministic about this at all. Nothing meticulous control. There's nothing here that is pointing to the tenets of Calvinism. Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth. So everybody saw it. 400 shekels of silver, commercial standard. He did exactly that's what his aim for bowing down was to close the deal. And he closes it. Not before the foundations of the world did God do it. At least in these texts, it doesn't say this. This is not the way Abraham is interpreting this text. It's just he closed the deal in an ancient Near Eastern negotiation, honor and shame context. So Ephron's field, which was in Machpelah, which faced Mamre, the field and cave which were in it, and all the trees which were in the field that were within the confines of its border, were deeded over to Abraham for a possession in the presence of the son of Heth, before all who went in the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were deeded over to Abraham for the burial site by the sons of Heth. And I would say right there is the whole point of the chapter. Not to teach us some, doctrine that came from John Calvin 1,000 years later. Is to show you that the negotiation of the ancient Near East by all the standards, practices in a honor and shame culture were followed. Abraham closed the deal and he got it done by following those practices. That's exactly what we read right here, and that's how the chapter closes. And so, Calvinist, prove us wrong. Where's determinism, meticulous divine determinism, that any of this happened? Where is that taught to us plainly, clearly, emphatically in these texts. Prove me wrong. Thank you guys for joining us. We will be back this week for another chapter, chapter 24, the bride of Isaac. We will get into that and see what's happening. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel and for supporting our ministry. And I will talk to you soon. Love you guys.